Hi, I'm Gwendolyn from Lifestyle Sew. We're going to talk about some stabilizers today because so many messages of people going on about what stabilizer should I use for this and what stabilizer should I use for that. And it is absolutely daunting. You're absolutely right. And if you are a beginner, it's mind-blowing because when I first started in embroidery, I had a top, a white top, and I put a gorgeous design on it. And when it came out, yeah, it was a little bit puckered, but not too bad. And it ironed out actually okay, wearable. And I actually thought that was fine with all it being a little bit puckered, because there's no embroidery police, is there? It wasn't good at all, really, not really. Not once I got into embroidery and then I start learning, and you learn the hard way. Unfortunately, that's how you do, and asking questions and getting there, and then sometimes it just puts you completely off and you don't bother. So when I first got my embroidery machine, it's a Benina. I have a Benina 790 plus sewing and embroidery machine. I think after about the first year, I then attempted the embroidery on the machine. And that's when I did this little T-top. And then I left it for 2 years because I was into my sewing, dressmaking and my patchwork. And I just didn't really, was inspired to use it again. And then all of a sudden, the bug hit me because I thought, you know what, in my dressmaking, I'll put some nice embroidery on some lapels and down the side of your trousers and on your back of your jean jacket. I thought, oh, I'm going to look so cool. I never did do it. I never did do it. I got into In the Hoop, ITH, and I just started doing all sorts of other things as well as my patchwork and the quilting side of things. So it wasn't quite what I envisioned doing, but I learned such a lot with embroidery, and the stabilizers that are going to work, and stabilizers that maybe you're not quite sure, but you've got to give it a go, and let's see how that works out. And then there's so many stabilizers on the market, so that's great because there's one for everything you need. Now, some people just use the same thing over and over and over again. Tearaway, medium thick for everything, more or less. And it works fine for lots of stuff, but that's only people if they're using certain things constantly all the time. But if you're not, and if you diversify, doing different little jobs, and this is this, so I'm going to have this sort of different material, I'm going to have stretch, I'm going to have cotton, I'm going to have, it just goes on and on. Then you need to have different stabilizers, and you need a lot of them, but you don't need much of anything if you're going to do varied stuff until you find the stuff that you really like to do, and then you'll maybe buy a bit more of that stabilizer. Excuse me. So some of the stabilizers that we're going to talk about is some of the ones that you probably already know and already use. But first of all, I'd just like to introduce you to this. It's Dyen. It's basically a stabilizer circle. It's an embroidery compass, it's called, but you will put the fabric that you want on the top, on the point, on the top, and in the box it shows you what you will need, and it also tells you what needle you're going to use. So that is really, really, really helpful. But bear in mind, this is just a guide, so it just gets you going. Because fabrics, you know, you can get a cotton fabric, and there's different strengths of the fabric. You have light cotton, medium cotton, strong cotton, you know. So this is a general guide and showing you. So let's put the cotton in. I'm saying cotton. Let me just have a look. Oh, and to do that, I'm going to need my glasses, because that helps a lot, doesn't it? So we've got sweatshirt caps, denim, socks, metallic thread. You'll need that later. Moisture wicking technical fabric, lace, freestanding embroidery, satin and polyester velvet, terry towel. So look at the terry towel, because that would be quite interesting to see, wouldn't it? So, oh, there's my top. So the fabric, my pointer needs to go on to the terry towel. Terry cloth, it basically, we call it towel here in the UK. Water soluble top on topping. Yes, I'm glad they actually said that, because when you use a stabilizer, if you're using a stabilizer for a towel, and this is a classic case for a towel, you are going to use a stabilizer underneath, but you are going to use a different type of stabilizer on the top. Water soluble stabilizer, so it's going to wash away. There is different ones you can have. I actually have iron away too. I don't like that so much, but I think it's that one's very good when it with certain types of things that you're going to embroider. But mainly I use the wash away, and I don't normally put it into the washing machine to wash it. I just use warm water next to me and just rub up all the sides down, and that'll take it all away. But the reason why you would use a topping on a terry towel, so you have your, say, your stabilizer underneath, there's the terry towel, and then you're going to put a topping on top. If you see in between that, there's going to be a space, because you're actually going to sew there. So all of this space is, although it's only a fraction, it makes the pile of your embroidery stand out a little bit more. So then you've got the terry towel pile, so you actually can see your embroidery. It doesn't dissolve into the back of your terry towel, and that's the most important thing when it comes to stabilizers, that you get the right one for the right job. But conversely, you can also use a topping, as I do, for nearly most of my embroidery, because I do like it to have that. It helps with the edges as well, and especially when it's intricate and it goes round different like eyes and things like that. It really does make it look very, very nice. So that's a great thing from that stabilizer. Then we have this sort of a stabilizer, and this sort of a stabilizer is a sticky stabilizer, a really sticky. And I've used this several times to do several projects, and basically you're going to hoop this with the lines facing up, so you can actually see the lines. The first time I used this, I hooped it the wrong way around, and I couldn't understand why it wasn't sticking. That was a few years ago. Then you scratch the actual surface, so you can pick it away, and then you just tear it off all the way round in the hoop. So it would leave underneath, it will leave a very sticky bottom. So the whole idea of that is you can float things, instead of actually, if things are bulky to do or awkward to do, instead of actually hooping them up, you can hoop the sticky stuff up in here, and all you're going to do is, on top of that sticky stabilizer, you're going to put your fabric. You're just going to press it on top so it doesn't move, and then you're going to hook your hoop up, and then watch your stabilizer as it goes round, and be very cautious, obviously. Then we have the Avalon, and this is I bought this recently for my stock, because this is like a plastic This is quite a strong plastic one. And I love it when it comes in boxes. So, oh, I haven't got it opened yet. So it really is quite, now it's not the strongest you can get. It really is quite strong to do this. It is wash away. So this is a wash away. And obviously I don't need to label this because I have a box to put that in. In this stabilizer before, I'd used it on something else that should have been wash away. Because I thought this was wash away. And it wasn't. Yeah, it ruined it because I couldn't literally cut it out. It had all the white. It needed to be washed away. Project was ruined. And this is the cutaway. And the reason why it's cutaway, this is a lightweight cutaway. I like them when they come in the boxes. This is a very lightweight cutaway. And this also has little crosses on it. It's very similar to the other one. And this definitely could be used for stretch. That has got some give in it as well. They do say all the instructions on these sort of stabilizers. So that's from Silky. We'd use probably 2 sheets of this, depending on what I was stabilizing. So that's that one. So then we have this one. Now this one, it's actually was labelled wrong. Because this came as New Brother stabilizer as a wash away. I think it was labelled wrong. It's actually a New Brother mesh stabilizer for stretch fabric, really. So this stabilizer, it's like material. It's got little tiny crosses in it. It's so if you've got some knit fabric for stretch, this stabilizer is going to stretch as well slightly, although it isn't got any stretch in it, saying that. Well, slightly. One way it's got slightly bit of stretch in it one way. Madeira stabilizer, Avalon Ultra. This is why I said really strong. Oh my goodness, how strong is this? Is this? Oh, this is just one. This is just one sheet. Now this is what I would have. This is a really strong. It's wash away too for certain projects. Yes, again. Sometimes we need a black stabilizer. You forget to put black in. Literally just tear away. That's just a tear away. I have a white one exactly the same, which is here. White one exactly the same. So, and it goes on and on and on and on and on. I'm sure you don't need me to stand here all day and just tell you. It's just bringing out stabilizers all the time. Excuse me for one moment. Before you've got your cup of tea or your coffee, or if it's in the evening, a glass of wine. That would be nice. Yeah, so when you're going to use stabilizers, this is for beginners, make sure, or for a sewer that hasn't, done a lot of embroidery, always double it. So instead of putting one layer underneath, put 2 layers underneath. Stabilize, it's the best thing in the world. Stabilizer. So therefore you can't ever over stabilize something, not really. Unless you're using the real heavy duty stuff, and you probably can then. But ordinarily you can't, and it works really better because the machine really likes it. Especially Benina sewing machines, they really like to be stabilized well when you're working with them. They really do. I'll take those off. I don't need those now. Well, it's vitally important that you actually mark your hoop. Now, I mark all my hoops what they are. So this is an oval, 14 by 25.5 centimetre. It's vitally important to do, because the second you lose the box or get it out of your box, then I just hook my hoops on the side of this horn cabinet. An arm comes out, and I just hook them there, and it's great for what I do, because I don't always embroidery all the time. I do different things. So when I finish doing the embroidery, my bits, I'll put the hoops away with all my embroidery stuff and then just concentrate so nothing gets broken. I really need to put them up, but you know, I don't feel the need at this moment to do that. So that's obviously another good tip to have. I like to embroider when I'm doing my quilt tops. I will hoop them up, hoop them up into my quilt cover and hoop the design as I go. So I do a mixture of pinpoint placing and continuous, seamless continuous stitching, really. So really a mixture of both of those to get the quilt quilted in that way. It does take a lot longer when you hoop, because you've got to wait for the machine to do it at its speed. Normally a hooping will take about, depending on the design, will take about 16 minutes just for the continuous pattern design. And then you've got to unhoop it, rehoop it, start again, do it again. So a day sewing, before I start to get a little bit bored, I normally do about 5 hoopings, and then I'm about done. So 5 or 6 hoopings and I'm about done. That's really about an hour and a half, something like that, after you checking everything. It sort of bores me a little bit doing it like that. Obviously it's a different ball game when we do freelance, when we just have our take your embroidery machine off, lower machine down, and go in for my free arm embroidery. That's a lot quicker. But to do that, we need to have some help. And the help I'm talking about is actually from Patsy Thompson Design in the USA. I had some suspension arms sent to me recently. I'm just going to show you actually, because I don't know how I ever survived without them. So look, they are just something else. And as you can see, if I can see it there, they're just great. And they move, obviously, with your quilt. You can actually, I hope I got that all right. You can actually move these hooks all over the place to wherever, these arms all over the place to wherever you suits you best. This suits me best. One goes one way and one goes the other way on this side of the table, because although this is a horn cabinet and it does have a table behind it attached, and a little bit of a table in front, you really need another table that goes that way. It's not quite big enough, but I can't complain, because you know, I sewed on the kitchen table for donkey's years, and I've only had this small sewing room for about 3 years. I mean, I could have had it years ago. I just didn't think of it. I think, oh, I'll take that bed. I'll get rid of that bed, and I'll put my sewing machine in there. Never thought about it, and I've, you know, had that opportunity for years to be able to do it. Just never thought about it, because I've been sewing on my table for, I'd got used to it, which was actually quite handy, right next to the kettle, and doing what you know, we do. So that was quite good. But these arms, they take the weight. It put me off quilting, because the drag, even though you put a chair there, you do this, the drag on doing the free motion quilting, oh my goodness me, the stitches underneath, it was terrible. And then I got to this stage, I think the last straw was about 4 months ago, when I digitized some patterns for my quilt, for my embroidery machine. I did 9 blocks. I did test it, and it tested okay. But when I did the 9 blocks, I waited until the 9th block before I checked it. and it was wrong. Eyelashes, stitches were wrong. It looked a complete mess. Well, maybe not a complete mess to anybody that didn't know about quilting. But if you turned it over, I think you would say, oh, why those stitches aren't there right? The eyelashes are coming. It all had to be unpicked. But because it was red work that I did, which means it goes round twice in each block, and it was intricate block, and it was going round twice, and they were small stitches, it took forever to unpick it. Forever. And the times I put that down. But that quilt was the most expensive quilt I ever quilted. And it wasn't complicated to actually do the patchwork at all. But it was complicated to put the pattern together. Once you've got all your blocks together and try to put all the blocks, it's called X block. And trying to get your twists and your turns right. And it took me 4 days. I had it all laid out on the bed because I wanted to visually see it instead of just wall seeing it. So I had it on the bed and I thought, that looks fine. Leave it for a day. It came back a day. Oh, that's all. Oh, that doesn't look right. That doesn't, because it's all very similar. It's very easy to make a mistake with the twists and turns. So I had to turn the block round, and I actually then thought it was my block. So I went and made some more blocks and to fill that hole in. And then the next day I think, that was fine the first time. So I ended up making a whole load of blocks that I didn't need to make. But the end result, it was very nice. It's a very nice quilt. Very nice. So I wasn't going to actually just give that, away, or not away, but just throw it to one side. I thought, no, I've got to work on it. It was just too expensive, the whole idea. But I have got something. I was meant to bring that in. What did I do with it? Just hold on a second. Now this, if you can see it, it's called Dyen starch spray. It's for shirts, basically. And the whole idea of it's a light starch. The whole idea of it, when you do a shirt, is when you buy a new shirt, it's nice and crisp. And you go out and it feels great, but as soon as you wash it, it loses its, let's say, je ne sais quoi. It just loses something and it's a bit flimsy. The second you iron with a light starch, it brings back that cotton fabric back to life again, like it's from straight out the shop. It's beautiful. I then tried it on my patchwork many years ago, because sometimes I was unpicking and the edges get frayed and it does not look good, and I used to just throw them away, to be honest, at that stage. And then when I came across this, I thought, oh, let's give it a go. I've got my ironing board out. I give it a spray. I could not believe it. It was like brand new little patch again. So from then on in, that's what it is. I spray all my patchwork when I'm doing everything, and I put them all together, and then I put them on the board for them to all look good, so I can mess about with them and do what I want. But it's all because of this fabulous spray. It is a game changer. It really is a game changer and a true find. It really is a true find. I've always sprayed with Glide or something like that when you're ironing, because it makes it smell nice and everything, but that spray starch is something else. So I use it a lot, and wouldn't be without it. So when my quilt, when you unpick a lot of stitches, the quilt, you get really, their little holes are very visible. And when I sprayed it all down again, and the actual top of the quilt was just like I'd had it before. It was really nice. It filled in all the holes. It looked great. I say holes, the actually tiny pinpricks, not proper holes, and absolutely looked fabulous. So yeah, so that's really is a good find for anybody. But I think they do it in also, I think different people call different things. I think in America you have other types of spray starch. So I hope it helps you out with all your embroidery stabilizers. So it'll help you as you go on your journey, try to get something. But do bear in mind, try to buy a different one each month, just to build up your stock. So then when you do come across things that you want to do, you don't have to wait, because there's nothing worse. When we've got a project in mind, oh yes, I've seen that on the internet, I've downloaded the pattern, oh, I've got to wait 3 days now before, or even longer, before I've got my stabiliser in. You're ready to go. You know, try and get organised like that. I know we're not very organised sometimes in what we do, especially in our sewing room. Not everybody is that organised that they can do things very quickly, but this is just one of the quick ways of get your stabilisers in, get your stock in what you need to get. Don't forget about getting your right needles in, because you can't go anywhere without your needles. You know, needles are another most important aspect of your sewing. So having a selection of needles that works for you is going to be absolutely fantastic. Saves us time, gives us a professional finish, and does not ruin your work. The right needle for the right job. The right stabiliser for the right job. And that all works. So I'd like you to give me a thumbs up, and I'd like you to subscribe to my video. Watch it all the way through and subscribe to my video if you possibly can. I really would appreciate that. And hopefully, can you also ring my bell, because that really helps the channel as well. So 3 things: subscribe, ring the bell, and give me a thumbs up. See you next time.